Hey, party people! Today we're jumping into the world of Perler Beads. This is the first video in a series where I'll go over a basic introduction to fuse beads. We'll specifically be talking about Perler Beads though, since those are the ones I'm most familiar with. Today, we're going over the following. It might seem like a lot, but we'll just be going over the basics for today. Before we start, I just want to say that this is in no way a paid promotion or sponsorship. I just really like making Perler Bead stuff. I'll be releasing more in-depth videos for this playlist, so keep an eye out for that. So, what can you make with Perler Beads? Well, anything you can think of. You can decorate your refrigerator. You can make coasters. You can create wall art. You can craft cosplay. You can manufacture containers. And you can hand make gifts for your loved ones and that one person in your Secret Santa group you may not love so much just yet. Ultimately, you can do whatever you want. Even if you want to make something that isn't functional or decorative, you can just be creative and you craft something that makes you happy. Remember, being creative doesn't always mean being original. Find something online and make your own version of it. Have fun! Now, let's take a look at what we need. To start, we need the Perler Beads themselves. We have a couple of options here. You can get a big container that has thousands of beads. I think this one brings 22,000. Holy moly. For a bucket this big, I believe they're close to around 30 bucks. Let's take a look at the pros and the cons. They'll definitely last you an extremely long time. They come in a huge variety with all the basic colors you'll need. It's the cheapest option per bead, and it's pretty easy to transport. However, you have to organize and sort the beads yourself. This will take a very long time. Here's a tip. Get your friends to help you sort. You can play a podcast in the background or something. You can also buy individually packaged colors. They come in the 6,000 count and 1,000 count variety. Let's take a look at the pros and cons. They come pre-sorted, saving you a lot more time. You could store this in a container, but you can also just pull straight from the bag if you'd like. These are a little more expensive per bead than the big bucket version. They can run from $3 to $5 a bag for the 1,000 count. It might be hard to guess what individual colors you'll need for all the projects you'll need ahead of time. It's up to you how you want to get your hands on the beads. For myself, I started with a huge bucket and bought smaller packets for projects that I had in mind. Almost every single one of my Perler Bead creations needed black and white, so I got those separately to save me the time of looking for them and sorting them. You're gonna need somewhere to organize your beads. Here's the container I use myself. The compartments are a bit small, but it can hold a decent amount. There are different shapes and sizes of pegboards that you can get. Some shapes are very specific. You can make a few of the same shape with different color schemes, for example. Some shapes are more useful than others though. The square one is a must if you'll be trying to imitate video game sprites and pixels. If you're working on larger creations, you'll need more than one pegboard. They can connect with one another like so. You need an iron. Hopefully you already have one in the house, but if you don't, any iron will do. This is what we use to fuse the beads together. The heat from the iron will melt and fuse the beads together for a permanent shape. Here's the one I inherited. This one doesn't have low, medium, or high settings, so I've had to experiment to see which settings work best for me. I'd like to think the one closest to the top is a higher and hotter setting, so I try to keep it somewhere between the middle and the top. We'll go over how to iron the beads in another video. If it has a steam option, make sure to keep it off. If you are a young person, please ask an adult in your life to help you, as this could potentially be dangerous. Some sets will come pre-packaged with ironing paper, but you can also buy that separately. If you don't want to use the Perler Bead ironing paper, there is an alternative. You might have read somewhere that you can use wax paper or parchment paper, but I've found that parchment paper works best. You won't necessarily need these materials to get started, but they sure do help. Technically, you could use your fingers to set the beads on your pegboard, but if you're like me, you have giant sausages for fingers. It can lead to some frustrating moments. Because of that, I use tweezers. You can use any set of tweezers, and there are some released by the company. I bought their green ones one day to try them out. They're fine, but sometimes the bead will get stuck if you shove it in too far. Their black one looks neat, so I might try that at some point. Other people use paper clips and skewers. You could use your fingers to organize your beads, but if you're running into the same problem as before, you can either use some straw and some tape or a paper clip. We'll go into more examples of that in another video. Some folks use masking tape because the heat from the iron is known to warp your pegboards, ruining them and making them useless. We'll make another video to show you how to do the masking tape method. If you're going to use this method, you also need something small and sharp. like a thumbtack or a needle to poke holes through the tape. You make these holes because you need a way for the heat to escape so your beads don't explode. You can use a thick cookbook, coffee table book, or even a heavy textbook. This is to help prevent your creation from warping and bending by keeping it flat. Imagination is technically optional because you can just get patterns and ideas from the internet. Remember folks, we're going for creativity, not necessarily originality here. Like my former landlord Steve once told me, if you fail to plan, you plan to fail. First, we need a pattern. You can find one online or make a pattern yourself. You can Google whatever you want and put quote Perler Beads or even quote sprite art and you might find something. You might find something on Reddit or DeviantArt for example. Candypatterns.com has a bunch of user posted patterns as well. Next, I recommend you sort your beads if you haven't already. We'll be going over different methods on how to sort your beads in another video. Keep in mind your style of fusing in case you need to reverse your design. You can also use a second pegboard to reverse it in case you change your mind before you start ironing. When planning, think of the following. Will you be using the masking tape method, or will you make it directly on the pegboard? If you want your design to have a front and a back, your choice here matters. I personally like to iron the backside first. That way, if I make any mistakes, I have a little more freedom to fix things on the side that won't be viewed as often. That means that if I'm ironing directly on the pegboard, that's the backside, and the reverse will be the display side. If I were to use the masking tape method, I would tape the creation, take it off of the pegboard, flip it, and iron that side, which would be the back side. This might sound a little confusing, but we can explore this in another video. So, how do we place the beads? For me, I like doing the outlines on black first to make sure it looks okay. I call this the outline method. If I make any mistakes, I can go back and make adjustments with only one color instead of shifting everything around. Afterwards, I fill in the colors one at a time. Another method you can use is what I call the printer method. I set the beads as a printer would print a paper, row by row. I usually start from the top and go down. Be conscious as to where your first beads go. You want to try to center your design on your board as best as possible. You can measure the width and height of your plan and compare it to your pegboard to see how many pegboards you might need. It's okay if it's not perfect, but it will be much more stable to iron later than if you were to work on the edges. So, how do we put it all together? Ultimately, this will depend on you, so it's best to experiment. Here's what works for me. Keep your iron on a medium to high setting. Iron in a circular motion. The paper should be sticking to the beads as they fuse. You should also be able to see the beads bleed through almost. Be very careful about the edges. The center might take a little longer since heat will be distributed a little more evenly across the beads. Some colors heat faster than other colors too. I like to test it by gently lifting the creation off the pegboard slightly. Once you feel like you've finished the one side, you can flip it over and iron the other side. Remove the paper and leave something heavy on your design to prevent it from warping and bending to one side. After you've waited about 10 minutes or so, your creation is ready. After this, you can do whatever you want. You can leave it as is, you can slap a magnet on it, you can put double-sided tape on it, you can attach a hook on it and make it into a tree ornament. Whatever tickles your fancy. So, there you have it. Now you should know how to get started with Perler Beads. What do you plan on making next? Or if you don't have the materials yet, what would you want to make? Leave a comment down below. I'd love to see what other folks have in mind. If you're interested in the more in-depth videos, please subscribe so you know when I drop them. Thanks for watching. Until next time, peace out.